Imagine a man who walks away. He doesn't shout. He doesn't issue demands. He simply observes the chaotic interdependent system around him, the webs of obligation, the constant demands for loyalty, the endless transactions of favors and debt, and he decides, I will build my own structure. He chooses radical self-reliance. He chooses autonomy. He chooses independence. This man believes he is making a choice toward purity and efficiency, eliminating the political noise and the emotional baggage that drag everyone else down. He assumes his competence and his focus will earn respect. But Nicolò Machiavelli, the great master of human psychology and political maneuver, knew better. Machiavelli understood that this quiet act of withdrawal, this pursuit of individual autonomy, is often the most profound threat to established power, and therefore, it must be labeled and neutralized. It is instantly labeled as selfishness. This isn't about simple greed or basic misanthropy. This is a strategic necessity for the collective. The moment you choose independence, you cease to be a predictable resource. You become a liability to the system because you have eliminated the primary levers used to control all human relationships: obligation and leverage. The man who needs nothing, who asks for no favors, who accepts no debt, cannot be manipulated. And in a Machiavellian universe where power is constantly shifting based on who owes what to whom, the person who stands outside the network entirely self-sufficient is seen not as admirable, but as dangerous. Everyone notices him, everyone remembers him, and they immediately begin to resent him. This dynamic plays out everywhere you look, in the corporate office, in the family structure, in the social circle. The independent spirit challenges the unspoken contract of mutual servitude. This scenario is not theoretical. It is the blueprint of social dynamics in every corner of the modern world. This silent, psychological warfare is waged against anyone attempting to chart their own course, free from the entanglements of necessary dependency. Before we dive into the precise Machiavellian tactics used to enforce this label of selfishness, we must acknowledge the global scale of this struggle for autonomy. Tell us, where are you witnessing this dynamic right now? Drop the name of your city in the comments below. Let us know the geographic location of this perennial tension between the individual and the collective. Machiavelli had a grim clarity regarding human nature. Men are quicker to offend those they love, because love is maintained by a chain of obligation, which, owing to the baseness of mankind, is broken at every opportunity for their own utility. This is the foundation of the independence trap. If you are loved, you are merely a resource waiting to be exploited. Your relationships are conditional upon your utility. The independent person, however, refuses to enter this economy of obligation. They are neither loved for their availability nor feared for their strategic necessity, which paradoxically makes them the object of universal suspicion. Their self-sufficiency removes the utility others rely on. Consider the nature of alliances. Machiavelli emphasizes that a prince must always be careful whom he trusts, and must ensure his allies are bound to him by shared interest or, better yet, shared necessity. When you are independent, you eliminate the necessity. You have no need for the protection of the group, no need for the approval of the leader, no need for the resources of the collective. This rejection of necessity is what triggers the defensive mechanism of the establishment. If they cannot pull you in with dependence, they must push you out with reputation damage. They must convert your self-mastery into a moral failing. The labeling begins subtly, often through insidious whispers. If the independent person is highly ambitious and focuses entirely on their own project, the label applied is ruthless or narcissistic. They are said to lack loyalty because they prioritize their mission over group politics. If the independent person sets firm boundaries, protecting their time and energy from the constant demands of the needy, they are called cold or unapproachable. If they manage their finances responsibly, saving and investing so they never need to rely on external sources of bailouts or support, they are whispered about as being greedy or tight-fisted, hoarding resources that should, by collective logic, be distributed or shared. The independent person's success, which should be a testament to competence, is instead interpreted as a crime against the community. Machiavelli understood that reputation is not reality. It is simply what others are forced to believe about you. And for those in power, whether corporate managers, social leaders, or political rulers, the independent person presents a catastrophic challenge to their authority. Why? Because the truly powerful depend on the predictability and malleability of the masses. The collective must believe that relying on the group is the safest and most rewarding path. When one individual succeeds wildly, without ever submitting to that path, when they demonstrate that true success requires radical exclusion of obligation, it creates a dangerous counter-narrative. It shows others the way out of the matrix of control. Therefore, the independent person's character must be systematically assassinated. The label of selfishness is the most effective weapon in this strategic war because it leverages a deep-seated human fear, the fear of social exclusion. The independent person fails the primary loyalty test of the group. They prioritize their internal compass over external approval. They follow their own necessity, not the demands of the crowd. Machiavelli observed that men are always ready to take sides, but they rarely choose a side that benefits them. They choose the side that offers the most immediate psychological comfort or social safety. The independent person's comfort is internal. Their safety is self-generated. This is an alien concept to the majority. The masses thrive on the drama of interdependency, the constant affirmation that comes from being needed and needing others. When the independent man stands aside, observing this elaborate dance of codependence with calm detachment, the dancers feel judged, they feel scorned, and they retaliate by questioning the moral validity of his entire existence. They say of the independent man, he only thinks of himself. But Machiavelli might argue, who else should he think of first? For the prince, stability requires self-interest elevated to statecraft. Yet for the individual, the pursuit of self-interest, personal development, financial autonomy, strategic self-protection, is immediately condemned. This is the hypocrisy that Machiavelli exposes in the social contract. The ruler is permitted, even encouraged, to act ruthlessly in his own self-preservation for the perceived good of the state. But the citizen who attempts the same self-preservation is deemed a pariah. The foundation of Machiavellian power is the ability to maintain control over the variables in one's environment. An independent person is an uncontrollable variable. They cannot be threatened with loss of status because their status is internal. They cannot be threatened with loss of resources because they generated their own resources. They cannot be shamed into compliance because their ultimate judge is themselves. Machiavelli's primary advice to a ruler was always, maintain necessity. Be necessary to your people. Ensure they need your protection, your resources, or your validation. The independent individual shatters this dependency model by actively reducing their points of failure and points of need. They are building a fortress of autonomy. And in the political landscape, any structure that is not the ruler's own fortress is a potential enemy stronghold. Thus, the powerful, those who rely on leveraging dependence, have no choice but to deploy the label of selfishness. It is a calculated move to isolate and discredit the outlier. If the independent person is isolated, they lose the protection of the collective. If they are discredited, others will be dissuaded from following their example. It becomes a social and economic death sentence designed to force the individual back into the fold of debt and reliance. This is not casual gossip. This is a strategic maneuver to preserve the control hierarchy. Every time the independent person chooses their own path, every time they decline a socially expected obligation to focus on their true priority, the system registers this as an aggressive act, an act of rebellion that must be met with the immediate and resounding denunciation. You are selfish. This psychological warfare is exhausting because it attacks the individual at their moral core. The independent man often spends more energy defending his intentions than he does pursuing his goals. He is constantly forced to prove that his boundaries are not a sign of coldness, that his focused ambition is not a sign of greed, and that his self-reliance is not a sign of arrogance. Machiavelli would advise the prince to ignore these trivial concerns, but for the modern man, reputation is currency. And the powerful know that destroying a man's reputation for loyalty is often easier and more effective than defeating him in open conflict. The very success of the independent person becomes their ultimate vulnerability. The more competent they become, the less they need others. The less they need others, the more selfish they appear to those still trapped in the cycle of obligation. This creates a perpetual state of conflict. The better you perform, the worse your reputation for character becomes in the eyes of the interdependent collective. Machiavelli would simply nod. He knew that virtue, in its purest form, often conflicts with the necessities of political survival and popular perception. True independence is a virtue of strength, but it is one that the weak and the calculating will never permit to go unpunished. The penalty is the label, the isolation, the strategic deployment of contempt. They must make sure that no one views your independence as a model to be replicated. They must ensure it looks like a tragedy waiting to happen. Understand this foundational truth about power. We want to know, what is the most powerful sentence that captures the exact moment you chose to reject dependence and embrace your independence? Write your definitive phrase in the comments right now. This conversation is the very foundation of genuine self-directed strategy. Secure your place now by tapping the like button and joining this channel. We are building the most valuable resource for understanding the real mechanics of power and reputation. Next, we unlock the critical mistake made by those who endure this label, revealing the Machiavellian strategy for turning this strategic isolation into untouchable strength. You cannot miss the next chapter of this deep examination. The precise moment a man commits to absolute independence is the moment he seals his fate as a social pariah. He has chosen solitude not out of malice but out of strategic necessity. Yet the world will not see necessity. It will only see refusal. The refusal of shared vulnerability, the refusal of reciprocal debt, the refusal of the comfortable collective delusion that binds society together. They look upon this detachment and instantly affix the label, selfish. We are not speaking here of simple self-care or the minor boundary setting that modern life encourages. Machiavelli, when examining the anatomy of power, dissects a far deeper political physics. He understands that dependence is the currency of control, and obligation is the strongest chain ever forged. When a man achieves true independence, meaning he can survive, thrive, and strategize without needing the immediate physical or emotional support of his inner circle, he is not merely freeing himself. He is actively destroying the leverage others hold over him. The accusation of selfishness is, in essence, a weapon of societal enforcement. It is the communal outcry against the one who dares to disrupt the delicate ecosystem of mutual weakness. The independent person does not need your pity, your favor, or your validation. And because they do not need these things, they cannot be controlled by them. This is the unforgivable sin against the collective. Before we delve further into this brutal calculus of reputation and power, I want to know where this deep truth is finding you today. In what city, beneath what skyline, are you processing the true cost of strategic detachment? Drop your location below. Machiavelli teaches that the average man seeks safety through alliances, through the security of the herd. He is willing to compromise his ambition and his judgment for the guarantee of shared protection. His loyalty is based on what he receives, not on genuine affection. He expects a return on every emotional investment, a guarantee on every shared burden. When the independent man steps away from this system, he reveals its fragility. He demonstrates that self-reliance is possible, thereby suggesting that all those chains the others wear are voluntary. This revelation breeds profound resentment. The man who chooses strategic solitude forces everyone else to look at their own obligations and dependencies, and they quickly conclude that it is easier to condemn the free man than to follow his path. They must categorize his freedom as a moral failing, selfishness, to justify their own bondage. The political philosopher saw this dynamic play out constantly in the courts and states he analyzed. A prince, to be effective, must prioritize the security and stability of the state above all personal affections. He must be willing to sacrifice a friend, betray an ally, or enforce severe measures, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. If he allows personal relationships, emotional ties, or the pursuit of popularity to dictate policy, he compromises his entire domain. The moment a leader stops being strategically cold is the moment he starts being strategically blind. Yet every single action motivated by pure statecraft, the necessary sacrifice, the calculated betrayal, the refusal of ill-advised generosity, is immediately interpreted by the populace as heartless selfishness. They cannot comprehend the long game. They measure actions by immediate emotional yield, not by long-term strategic consequence. They prefer a charismatic, generous fool who will eventually ruin them, to a cold, calculating strategist who ensures their survival. Machiavelli understood that the true cost of ruling is the acceptance of this isolation. To govern effectively, one must cultivate a distance that appears, by all superficial measures, to be profound selfishness. You must be prepared to be disliked, because being disliked is the price of being unpredictable, and being unpredictable is a prerequisite for being feared. Not feared for your aggression, but feared for your intellectual and strategic depth. Consider the dynamics of patronage. In Machiavelli's world, great men maintain power through giving favors and demanding loyalty. The independent man refuses to be a part of this exchange. He does not seek favors and therefore owes none. He sustains his own needs, reducing the opportunities for others to bind him through gifts, resources, or assistance. When the independent man refuses a gift, he is not just being humble. He is refusing a political liability. He is preserving his absolute freedom of action. This refusal is universally seen as arrogance, coldness, and ultimately selfishness. The giver of the gift loses the moral high ground and the political leverage they were attempting to acquire. They hate the independent man, not because he is bad, but because he is uncontrollable. His self-sufficiency acts as a strategic fortress that cannot be besieged by soft power or emotional manipulation. The nature of man, as Machiavelli observed, is fleeting when it comes to gratitude. Men are quick to forget favors but relentless in remembering injuries. If you rely on their love or their gratitude, you build your entire structure on sand. The independent man, however, relies only on his own calculated capacity. He makes himself necessary, not beloved, and this necessity is far more durable than any ephemeral emotion. The label of selfishness becomes a convenient shorthand for that person does not participate in our social contract. And the social contract at its core demands interdependence. It mandates that you keep certain emotional doors open so that you can be accessed, influenced, and, if necessary, punished. The man who locks all these doors is deemed selfish because his self-containment makes him immune to the standard tools of public censure. Furthermore, strategic independence often requires the suppression of immediate emotional reactions, a quality that runs contrary to the highly emotionalized environments of politics and social life. The independent man must practice emotional austerity. He does not share his fears or his doubts because to do so is to hand intelligence to a potential adversary. He does not celebrate his triumphs prematurely because boasting invites immediate envy and countermeasures. He operates with a quiet, persistent calculation. This lack of outward emotional display is precisely what confirms the accusation of selfishness. The average person mistakes emotional transparency for honesty and emotional warmth for virtue. When they encounter the calm, unreadable facade of the strategically independent person, they immediately distrust it. They assume the lack of surface emotion masks a dark, predatory intent, when in fact, it often masks pure, cold, rational strategy. Machiavelli's core lesson here is that you must accept the reputation of selfishness if you desire the reality of independence. You cannot have both the warm embrace of the crowd and the strategic freedom of the sovereign individual. If you try to maintain popularity while pursuing true autonomy, you will constantly compromise your strategic decisions to appease your followers or partners. You will be held hostage by the fear of being labeled. But the independent man, having already internalized the cost of his choices, operates beyond this fear. He accepts the odium. He knows that the people will slander him and gossip about his supposed coldness. But he also knows that those same people will turn to him when fortune fails them, and they need genuine, unclouded competence. They may despise his methods, but they will respect his results. This dynamic leads to what can be called the Machiavellian paradox of resource allocation. A genuinely independent person will allocate their time, energy, and resources primarily toward bolstering their self-sufficiency and strategic position. This often means saying no to social obligations, familial demands, and acts of charity that drain vital resources without providing a strategic return. The independent person invests in fortifying their inner citadel. They spend time on skill acquisition, network building, of useful high-value contacts, not merely friends, and intellectual development. They view time as the most precious, finite resource, and therefore, they are intensely protective of it. To the outside observer, this focus appears obsessively selfish. Why is he studying when he should be at the celebration? Why is she negotiating fiercely when she could simply yield to maintain harmony? Why is he always preparing for the worst when everything seems fine? The independent person is constantly judged by a standard of communal generosity, while operating by a standard of strategic longevity. He is building a reserve of political and personal capital that allows him to weather any storm. And this preparation is deemed selfish because it is not immediately shared with the collective. The moment of truth arrives during times of crisis. When the storms hit, the interdependent man is exposed as fragile, reliant on external help, desperately seeking the alliances he cultivated. The independent man, prepared and self-sufficient, weathers the storm with minimal damage. And in this very moment of competence, the hatred intensifies. His success is not celebrated as a model. It is condemned as proof of his prior avarice and detachment. He had resources because he was selfish, they cry, ignoring the fact that his selfishness was simply foresight and refusal to compromise his reserves. Machiavelli would smile at this predictable cycle. He understood that men resent those who are prepared, for preparedness implies a knowledge of reality that most prefer to ignore. It suggests a clear-eyed view of human nature that sees danger where others see only opportunity for temporary pleasure. The independent man, therefore, cannot afford the luxury of being perceived as fully good or loved in the conventional sense. He must retain a strategic reserve of apparent selfishness and aloofness. This reputation keeps the opportunists and manipulators at bay. They are less likely to seek favors from someone known to be difficult, cold, and calculating. This calculated distance is a form of self-defense, a repellent that filters the weak, the needy, and the manipulative from the truly valuable high-agency collaborators. If you are known for your overwhelming generosity and emotional warmth, you become a target, a resource to be exploited until depleted. If you are known for your absolute self-reliance and unforgiving calculation, people approach you with caution and respect your time and resources because they know you value them fiercely. The perception of selfishness, therefore, becomes a crucial component of political security. It is the armor that protects the inner workings of your power structure. This isn't to say that the independent man must never be generous. Machiavelli argued for calculated generosity, the kind that serves a clear purpose and binds specific, useful allies, while avoiding the chaotic, open-handed generosity that quickly bankrupts a ruler and merely earns fleeting, temporary praise. True generosity must be strategic, targeted, and infrequent enough to be valued. Anything else is political suicide, and the world will still call you selfish the moment your well runs dry. The independent man must operate on the principle of necessity. Every alliance, every friendship, every action must pass through the filter of strategic relevance. Does this relationship increase my capacity? Does this expenditure advance my position? If the answer is no, the relationship or expenditure is discarded. This is the only way to maintain the purity of purpose required for long-term strategic success. And every discarded obligation, every politely refused invitation, every rational decision that prioritizes the long game over immediate pleasure will be logged by the community as yet another proof of your incurable selfishness. This acceptance of the negative label is the true hallmark of Machiavellian independence. The weak are crippled by the fear of being called selfish. The strategic mind absorbs the accusation and uses it as a barrier against further exploitation. The isolation that accompanies this independence is not a pleasant state, but it is strategically fertile. In solitude, the mind can calculate without the noise of collective emotion. It can see patterns that the entangled mind misses. It can plan long-term maneuvers while others are preoccupied with short-term social dramas. The label of selfish simply ensures that this crucial strategic space is protected from intrusion. This is the developing reality of power. The path to self-sovereignty runs directly through public condemnation. The man who achieves true independence is the man who has accepted that his greatest strengths, his self-reliance, his foresight, his clear-eyed detachment, will be universally mislabeled as his greatest moral flaws. The fortress of strategic independence is built on the ruins of social approval. We have explored the conflict between strategic necessity and societal obligation. We have seen why the masses label independence as selfishness. It is a self-defense mechanism designed to enforce dependence. Now it is time to turn this insight into action. We are creating a community dedicated to strategic mastery. If you recognize the necessary cost of true independence, affirm your commitment to strategy by declaring your own strategic independence in the comments. Write this phrase below: "My fortress stands alone." This action signals your understanding of the lesson. We are not aiming for casual likes. We are seeking strategic allies. If this analysis sharpened your perspective, Give this content the approval it deserves to ensure the flow of powerful ideas continues to reach those who value true competence. Join this community of thinkers right now by subscribing. We are building the intellectual bedrock for serious strategic power, and you must prepare for the final teaching. The next part will reveal the ultimate unspoken rule of Machiavellian power, the one strategy that ensures your self-reliance remains unassailable and transforms the label of selfishness into the ultimate strategic advantage. It is the final piece of the puzzle that makes all prior independence permanent. Do not miss it. The most dangerous moment in any strategic life is the moment of definitive departure. It is the instant you cease to be a resource for others and decide, irrevocably, to become a fortress unto yourself. This shift, this declaration of mental, emotional, and financial sovereignty, is often met not with applause, but with a universal chorus of condemnation. They will call it selfishness. They will label it arrogance. They will frame your independence as a personal betrayal, an act of unforgivable psychological treason against the implicit social contract of mutual dependency. And this is the final crucial test Machiavelli warns us about. They do not hate you because you are weak. They hate you because you refuse to be exploited. They do not resent your success. They resent the fact that your success was achieved without their permission or participation, which invalidates their entire system of required interdependence. When the masses see a man who stands alone, self-contained, requiring nothing of them, they recognize a threat to their primary tool of control, the emotional marketplace. And Machiavelli understood this human reality better than any philosopher before him. He knew that men are by nature ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and covetous. And the moment they realize they cannot control you, they must attempt to define you, reducing your complex competence to a single, socially unacceptable term: selfish. This is the weapon of the herd, used to punish the individual who has climbed out of the pit of required reliance. They attempt to shame you back into a position of weakness, back into a system where your energy, time, and resources are perpetually available for their use. If you are joining this deep strategic analysis right now, pause for a moment and consider the geographical fortress you occupy. Where in the world are you currently situated, absorbing this final, decisive lesson from the ultimate realist? We are building a global alliance of strategic minds, and understanding where our insights are taking root helps us map the future of real power. Now, return to the battlefield. The accusation of selfishness is Machiavelli's final obstacle for the aspiring prince. The prince, who must always appear concerned with the welfare of his state, cannot afford to be genuinely dependent on the temporary goodwill of the populace or the shallow loyalty of his allies. Dependence is vulnerability. Dependency is the soft spot where enemies and false friends insert their leverage. When you pursue independence, you are necessarily choosing objective efficacy over subjective emotional appeasement. You choose the solitude required for deep strategic thought over the distracting camaraderie of the compliant. You choose the accumulation of personal competence over the comfort of relying on group skills. This is the definition of Machiavellian self-preservation, and it mandates an inherent separation. Machiavelli would argue that the label of selfishness is not merely an insult. It is a vital, though painful, strategic signal. It tells the prince three critical things. First, it confirms that the prince has successfully cut the umbilical cord of emotional need, achieving true autonomy. Second, it identifies the loudest accusers, those who stand to lose the most from the prince's self-sufficiency. These are the people whose influence is entirely derived from controlling others, and your independence renders them powerless. Third, and most importantly, the label of selfishness acts as a barrier, repelling the weak, the parasitic, and the emotionally demanding. Consider the dynamic of a fortress. A well-designed fortress is inherently unwelcoming. Its high walls, deep moats, and narrow gates are not built to invite casual visitors or to facilitate easy access. They are built to deny entry, to frustrate assault, and to ensure the self-sufficiency of those within. The man who chooses independence builds a psychological fortress around his life. His emotional walls are high because he understands that unguarded vulnerability is a liability. His gates are narrow because he strictly curates who gains access to his trust and resources. To those outside, attempting to scale those walls or breach those gates for their own convenience, this appears selfish. Why won't he share his success? Why does he keep his counsel to himself? Why is he so difficult to reach? They feel entitled to access your resources simply because they exist within your orbit. But Machiavelli reminds us, the prince's primary duty is to the preservation of his own power and state. Anything that compromises that preservation, including unnecessary emotional entanglement or financial leakage to the undeserving, is foolishness, not generosity. The independent individual understands that human relationships, particularly in power dynamics, are rarely about altruism. They are about utility. People seek connection with you, not for the pure joy of your company, but for the leverage, validation, resources, or comfort you provide. When you stop providing these things on demand, when you enforce boundaries, require mutual value, and prioritize your own goals, they withdraw their manufactured affection and replace it with contempt. This contempt, the label of selfishness, is the tax paid for freedom. It is the cost of entry into the strategic elite. The majority remains trapped in a circular dance of codependency, constantly exchanging emotional validation for material or psychological support. The independent man exits this dance floor entirely. He accepts that his journey is solitary because the goals he pursues are often beyond the imagination and certainly beyond the commitment of the average person. Machiavelli had a subtle perspective on trust and loyalty. He knew that the loyalty purchased through obligation or reliance is fragile. The moment the benefactor's need diminishes or the benefit dries up, the loyalty evaporates. The independent person, by contrast, seeks loyalty based on mutual, transparent value. He asks, "What unique competence do you bring to my state? And what unique competence do I bring to yours?" This is cold, objective, and profoundly strategic. And because it lacks the sentimental veneer that the masses demand, they label it heartless. But the heartless label is a strategic advantage in disguise. When you are perceived as solely focused on your own competence and preservation, it discourages casual attempts at manipulation. It signals to potential exploiters that there is no easy emotional currency to be traded, no soft spot of neediness to target. It raises the entry barrier for forming alliances, ensuring that only those who bring genuine, undeniable value are willing to approach you. The truly strong, the strategically minded individuals who are also building their own fortresses, do not fear your boundaries. They respect them because they understand their necessity. The prince, Machiavelli states, must always maintain his own state and not rely on the help of others. This is the definition of independence, and it is built upon a foundation of self-trust so absolute that it often offends those who cannot trust themselves. The masses require constant external validation because their internal structure is weak. The independent man requires no external validation because his structure is built on proven competence and unwavering self-reliance. When he looks within, he sees not emptiness, but the fully provisioned armory of his own skills. To fully grasp the Machiavellian conclusion, we must understand the core difference between self-preservation and simple greed. Greed is a reactive desire for more, often rooted in insecurity. Self-preservation, as championed by Machiavelli, is the proactive defense of existing power, resources, and autonomy. When the independent person refuses to give, it is not because he is hoarding, but because he is strategically allocating resources to ensure his long-term survival and ability to execute his ultimate vision. This vision is often too vast for the small-minded critics to comprehend, leading them to misinterpret grand strategy as petty selfishness. The ultimate conclusion is this: Machiavelli never promised a path to popularity. He promised a path to enduring power. The man who chooses independence must make peace with the noise of the critics. He must internalize the understanding that the accusations of selfishness are merely the sound of chains breaking. Every insult hurled is proof that the old systems of control no longer hold him. The strategic mind recognizes that the opinions of the dependent majority are irrelevant to the mission of the autonomous few. If seeking autonomy and stability means being labeled selfish by those who wish to destabilize you for their own gain, then embrace the label. Wear it as a badge of honor. Let the perception of cold distance be the psychological moat that keeps the users and the weak at bay. Because in the end, when the storms of fortune arrive, the independent fortress stands firm, while the house built on the shifting sands of public opinion and emotional codependence collapses. You have made the commitment to this path. absorbing these three parts of strategic clarity. Now the final step is integration. You recognize the price of independence. You understand why the world attempts to punish competence and self-reliance by labeling it selfishness. The greatest phrase you can internalize is the affirmation of your own strategic path, regardless of external judgment. So, let us formalize this commitment. We are building a global community dedicated to strategic action and Machiavellian clarity. Show your commitment to this ruthless pursuit of competence and help others find the language for their own independence. Right now, drop into the comments section and suggest the definitive phrase that perfectly encapsulates the moment you embraced self-preservation over social appeasement. Give us the mantra of the strategically independent mind. Your insight sharpens the understanding of everyone else on this journey. You are actively building power, not seeking validation. And because you are demonstrating competence by engaging with this dense material, you deserve to secure future knowledge. Hit the like button on this video, affirming your recognition that strategy always trumps emotion, and subscribe to the channel immediately. You are taking possession of the future, and we are delivering the map. Do not allow your commitment to lapse. Lock in your strategic advantage now, and prepare your mind for the next essential deep dive. We will be analyzing the precise Machiavellian tactics for identifying the difference between a true, indispensable ally and a dangerous liability, the secret method for auditing your inner circle that separates the princes from the pretenders. You will learn the silent signals of true loyalty and the hidden cost of trusting an opportunist. That knowledge is arriving soon, and it is information you simply cannot afford to miss.